If you're watching this right now, it's because you've reached that point, that silent, intimate, unbearable moment when something inside you finally breaks, and you start to feel it. That internal scream that no words can fully capture. Perhaps you can't name exactly what's happening, but you know deep in your soul that you can no longer continue living this way. It's as if there's a crack inside you, an invisible fracture that separates who you truly are from who you've been pretending to be. This isn't coincidence, it's inevitability. At some point in the human journey, everyone faces this internal collapse. Most people ignore it, anesthetized by the comfort of routine or paralyzed by the fear of change. But for some, like you, this collapse transforms into a calling, an impulse that can no longer be silenced. Carl Jung described this phenomenon as individuation, a psychic process in which the soul refuses to continue living beneath the masks that were constructed to please, to survive, to fit in. This video is not just content, it's a mirror, a symbolic reflection that reaches you exactly when your conscious mind no longer has answers, but your unconscious already knows it's time to act. This is the moment when ordinary life begins revealing its true face, an automated existence shaped by the expectations of others, worn-out social roles, and promises that were never kept. Perhaps you're in a relationship that slowly drains your energy, or in a job that, although it pays the bills, silently murders your soul day after day. Perhaps what imprisons you is more subtle: the shame of disappointing your parents, the fear of not being accepted, the weight of a path that was planned for you but never by you. Jung warned us that the greatest danger of modern life is not chaos, but unconscious adaptation to the inauthentic. The real catastrophe is living a life that isn't yours and not even realizing it. And that is precisely why the calling arises through suffering. When the psyche tried in all the subtle ways to alert the ego, through dreams, silent crises, emotional exhaustion, and was ignored, it turns up the volume. And what was once just discomfort transforms into desperation. What was once doubt transforms into anguish. What was once fatigue transforms into collapse. And then something curious happens. You start to attract exactly the messages, the symbols and signs that you need to awaken. Not because the universe is magical, but because your soul is actively seeking the keys to escape from its inner prison. This is the moment when you find videos like this one. Because the unconscious, as Jung described, has a symbolic intelligence, and it manifests when the ego is ready to listen. You may have stumbled upon this video among hundreds of others, but nothing is by chance when it comes to the soul. The content you're about to experience is not a quick fix, nor a self-help formula. It's a confrontation, a call to look yourself in the mirror and face everything you've been avoiding. Fear, shame, anger, emptiness, guilt, frustration. None of these feelings are signs of weakness. They are indicators that the structure of your current life is collapsing because you've reached your limit. You are not broken. You are being compelled to be reborn. This is the moment, and it can no longer be postponed. Part 1. The illusion of normal life. Most people live their lives like functional automatons. They wake up, work, produce, obey, and repeat. They think this is normal, but it isn't. It's just common. And common is not synonymous with healthy. You were taught from an early age to seek stability, to follow rules, to fit in, not to make too much noise. The message was clear. Don't question. Be grateful. Do what's right. But right for whom? Carl Jung wrote in The Undiscovered Self that the greatest threat to the individual soul in modernity is not madness or misery, but massification, the transformation of the human being into a statistical component, a replaceable part within a system that values conformity over authenticity. When you start to feel suffocated by your own routine, this feeling is not a flaw. It's a signal, a silent scream from your psyche saying, "This isn't you." You may have followed all the rules, graduated, got a job, found a partner, posted photos of smiling faces, and yet, you still feel empty, as if there's a part of you watching everything from the outside. This feeling of dissociation is not an illness. It is consciousness trying to emerge, It's the unconscious signaling that the persona you built to survive is no longer enough to truly live. The normalcy they sold you is a sophisticated trap. It offers small doses of pleasure in exchange for your freedom. You gain social approval, a stable salary, family acceptance. But the price is high. You sacrifice your truth, your inner voice, your spontaneity. And with time, you forget who you really are. Jung said that adaptation to society is necessary, but it becomes pathological when it requires abandonment of the self. And that's exactly what happens to millions of people. They live normal lives while being emotionally numb, spiritually apathetic, existentially lost. The system rewards obedience with distractions. You get Netflix, delivery, likes, and a fabricated sense of belonging. Everything so you never have to ask yourself, am I living or merely existing? This collective lie creates an illusion of security. But inside, you can feel the crack. Perhaps you're trying to silence this pain with productivity, with entertainment, with superficial relationships. But no distraction can silence a soul in crisis. And when you start to question, the world tries to convince you that the problem is you, that it's just anxiety, that it's just stress, that you need a vacation. But deep down, you know it's not just tiredness, it's desperation. You feel that something is wrong with your life, not because it's failing, but because you're awake enough to realize that the entire structure is corrupt. False normalcy is a disguise for psychic death. It is the result of a life guided by duties, not meaning. Jung said that the unlived life is a disease from which one can die. And what we see most is people dying slowly, one day at a time, trapped in a narrative that was never written by them. But there is a way out. And it begins with the deconstruction of that facade. The next step is not to go back to sleep. It's about accepting that this unease, this restlessness, this existential anguish is the prelude to something much greater, transformation. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about next. Because you're not broken, you're ready. If this content makes sense to you, click the subscribe button. Thank you for your support. Part 2. Suffering is not a flaw, it's a signal. We live in a culture that interprets suffering as a sign of failure. If you are distressed, something went wrong. If you are sad, you have a problem. If you feel you don't belong, there's something wrong with you. But that interpretation is a dangerous lie. Suffering is not a flaw to be corrected. It's a signal to be deciphered. And perhaps, for the first time in your life, you're about to understand it. Carl Jung said that the soul refuses to continue pretending when the moment of transformation arrives. What you call an existential crisis, an emotional breakdown, or inner emptiness is, in fact, the beginning of a profound awakening process. Despair, chronic fatigue, the feeling of being out of place, all of this is the symbolic language of the psyche saying, you are ready. Ready to shed the persona you've been carrying for years. Ready to look at your shadow. Ready to be who you truly are, not who the world taught you to be. You might think you're falling apart, but it's not you that's falling apart. It's the character you created to survive. It's the shell that protected you until now but has now become a prison. The suffering you feel is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Because only a mature soul has the courage to confront its own emptiness without anesthesia. Only those who bore the weight of lies are capable of carrying the truth. Jung observed that the human psyche intentionally produces suffering as a transitional mechanism. When the ego resists change, the unconscious responds with symptoms: anxiety, insomnia, apathy, anger, confusion. These symptoms are not obstacles in your path. They are the path. They force you to stop, to question, to look within. They compel the collapse of the old structure so that something new can emerge. Society will try to convince you that you need to return to normal. Take a pill, take a course, read a self-help book, take a deep breath, and move on. But don't be fooled. This normal is what made you sick. You don't need to go back. You need to move forward. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to break free. Your pain is a threshold, a symbolic portal. And if you resist, it turns into chronic suffering. But if you listen, it becomes initiation. It's not comfortable. It's not pretty. It's not fast. But it's real. And above all, it is necessary. Jung stated that the individuation process begins when you get tired of being half alive, when you realize you can no longer live only on the surface of consciousness, when you understand that you need to integrate what is hidden, your repressed emotions, your traumas, your impulses, your denied desires. This integration is not a spiritual luxury. It's an existential emergency. You are not broken. You are crossing into unexplored territory of your own soul. And every tear, every silence, every feeling of being lost is part of the journey. The pain is trying to wake you up. And now that you're starting to listen, something inevitable happens. You start to realize that certain messages, people, symbols, even this video, appear in your life with a meaning that goes beyond coincidence. That's what we'll be talking about in the next part. What does it really mean when something seemingly random reaches you at the exact moment you need it most? Part 3. Synchronicity. When the soul calls. Have you ever felt that certain things come to you at the exact moment you need them most? A book that appears out of nowhere. A conversation that hits exactly where it hurts. A video like this one that appears in your feed at a moment when you're on the verge of collapse. It's not coincidence. It's synchronicity. A fundamental concept proposed by Carl Jung to describe what logic cannot explain, but that the soul immediately recognizes as true. Jung understood that the unconscious is not just a repository of repressed traumas or impulses. It is a living intelligence, a dynamic system that constantly seeks balance to guide and heal the conscious psyche. When you approach a breaking point, when your soul begins to awaken to a greater truth, the unconscious intensifies its symbolic activity. And it does this by using everything around you: dreams, images, emotions, and even algorithms. External reality begins to mirror your internal transformation. And it's not because the universe is conspiring magically, but because your psyche is magnetizing what it needs to evolve. When you are ready, the right symbols emerge. And they don't scream. They whisper. They don't convince. They resonate. And you feel with disconcerting clarity that this is for you. This message is not generic. It's intimate, targeted, undeniable. The unconscious speaks through symbols because it knows that the ego resists change. It doesn't try to convince rationally. It hints, suggests, and leads you down unexpected paths. A song that makes you cry without knowing why. A passage from a book that seems to describe your life exactly. A dream that keeps returning night after night. All of these are forms of communication from the psyche with you, and ignoring them is like ignoring a divine calling. Jung stated that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. But when you start listening to the signs, the unconscious ceases to be a hidden enemy and becomes a subtle ally. It guides you firmly, even if silently, and this video is one of those signs. It didn't appear by chance. It's an answer you were subconsciously asking for, even without knowing it. If you're here, it's because something in you recognized this content as necessary. You might not even be able to explain why you pressed play, but your soul knows. And it's trying to push you towards the next step. Because now that you know you're not broken, that your pain is a sign of readiness, and that the unconscious is guiding you, you need to do something about this. But this next step is not easy, because it involves fear. It involves risk. It involves leaving the familiar to dive into the unknown. And that's exactly what we'll be talking about next. The terrifying leap that separates the false life from the authentic life. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in exploring Jung's work more deeply. The journey of individuation is not easy, but it's the only path to true freedom. Part 4. The leap into the unknown. Every real transformation process requires a crossing, and every crossing requires a leap. Not a physical leap, but a psychological one. The moment when you need to abandon the narrative that kept you safe, even if miserable, to walk towards a version of yourself that you still don't know. This is the most critical point of the individuation process, as described by Carl Jung, and it is also the point where most people retreat. Because the leap is terrifying. It means losing your balance. It means no longer having guarantees, maps, or instructions. It means giving up a carefully constructed persona, the one that brought you this far, but that has now become a gilded prison. It means saying no to everything that seems okay on the outside, but finally saying yes to what pulses within. Jung compared this moment to a confrontation with the inner dragon, an archetype that represents all fears, doubts, and resistance that arise at the threshold of change. This dragon will tell you that you're crazy, that this isn't the right time, that you're unprepared, that you'll lose everything, that you'll disappoint others, that you'll regret it. It will show you all possible scenarios of failure, because it knows that if you leap, it dies, and the ego fears symbolic death more than any pain. But here's the truth that almost nobody has the courage to say. The fear you feel at this moment is not a warning to retreat. It's a sign to move forward. Fear is the marker that you're exactly on target. Jung stated that the encounter with oneself is, initially, an encounter with one's own shadow. The abyss, the hell from which no one escapes, it is the self. This means that before finding freedom, you will be confronted with everything you've avoided feeling for years. You will have to face the fear of being rejected, of failing, of losing. You will have to confront the pain of everything that needs to die so something new can be born, and that hurts. It paralyzes, but it also liberates. Because once you cross, even stumbling, even crying, even while doubting, you discover that on the other side of fear, there is life. Real life. Not survival, not conformity, not appearance, but presence, authenticity, and meaning. You don't need to be 100% ready to leap. Nobody is. You just need to be tired enough of pretending, fed up enough with the lie, brave enough to say, I don't know what comes next, but I can no longer stay here. This is the breaking point, the watershed moment between those who go through life numb and the few who dare to awaken. And if you've made it this far, it's because you already feel the urgency of the leap. The only question that remains is, what is still holding you back? In the next part, we will talk about that. About why nobody is coming to save you. Why radical responsibility for your life is now yours, and yours alone. Part 5. Nobody is coming to save you. This is one of the hardest truths to swallow, but perhaps the most liberating of all. Nobody will save you. No person, no guru, no book, no therapist, no video. No external force will come to pull you out of the hole you're in. No savior will come to fix your life, because in reality that responsibility rests solely with you. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner your true liberation will begin. You've been conditioned to wait, waiting for someone to acknowledge your pain, waiting for your partner to change, for your boss to value you, for your family to understand, hoping the system will finally work, that the perfect moment will come along, that courage will arise from nothing. But all of this is an illusion. The archetype of the external savior is a childish trap of the collective unconscious. It is the voice of the wounded child who is still waiting for protection, for comfort, for direction. But you're not that child anymore. Now you're the adult. And the adult, however painful it may be, needs to take control of their own journey. Carl Jung was clear in saying that individuation, this process of becoming who you are, cannot be lived by proxy. No one can walk this path for you, because this path is internal and entirely individual. Every step needs to be yours, every choice, every release, every rebirth. Radical responsibility doesn't mean you are to blame for everything that happened to you, but it means that from now on, you are responsible for not remaining where you are. It means that even if the pain was caused by others, the cure depends on you. The truth is that the system we live in profits from your passivity. It wants you to remain dependent, insecure, obedient, following rules without questioning, being consumed, being numbed, waiting for ready-made solutions, And you've waited long enough. This is the time to break free from this emotional, spiritual, and existential dependence. Nobody's going to knock on your door to rescue you. There will be no clear sign. No permission will be given. There will be no manual. What exists is this growing discomfort within you. That inner voice that keeps insisting, that makes you feel, that torments you, that invites you to take action, and it tells you with increasing force, either you change or you continue dying in slow motion. You have within you all the resources to begin this journey. But as long as you continue to outsource your freedom, you will remain imprisoned. While you wait for someone to tell you it's okay to leave your job, end the relationship, start over, you will continue living other people's lives, not yours. Your ego will tell you it's impossible, that it's dangerous, that you're not prepared. But the ego is cowardly. It just wants to survive, and your soul wants to live. Taking responsibility for your own life is the beginning of true maturity. It's the moment when you stop playing the victim and begin to rebuild. In silence, without an audience, without guarantees, but with dignity. And that's where the inevitable question arises. What lies on the other side of this fear? What exists after you accept that you are alone and the leap depends only on you? The answer that Jung gives us is clear: real life, the one you came to experience, but postponed for too long. Conclusion. Your authentic life begins where your fear ends. There is an invisible line that separates the life you live from the life you came to live. This line is not made of external obstacles, lack of money, or other people's opinions. This line is made of fear, the fear of change, the fear of disappointment, the fear of failure, the fear of leaving the cave, abandoning normalcy, and walking alone into the unknown. But it's on the other side of this fear that your real life begins. Jung teaches us that fear is not an enemy. It is a guardian of portals. Every time you feel afraid to change, to be free, to take risks, it's because you're about to touch something sacred, your true self. The persona you created, polite, functional, smiling, was useful for protecting you. But now it's a prison, and the key to getting out is in the place you least want to look. Inside the fear, in the pain you feel, in the anguish that haunts you, in the emptiness you try to hide with distractions. All of this is the soul trying to push you towards the life that belongs to you. And you know that. You know why you felt something throughout this video. Because even without being able to explain it, something within you recognizes that these words are for you, not for someone generic. For you. The question now is not whether you are ready, because you'll never feel like you are. The question is, will you continue dragging yourself through a life that makes you sick? Or will you overcome the fear and begin to truly live? Nobody will come to save you. There will be no clearer sign. There will be no manual. But there will be a choice. And that choice is here now. So leave a mark. A short phrase. A symbolic statement. Write in the comments, I choose to cross. Not for me. For you. Because to name is to invoke, to write is to seal. And this may be the first conscious decision of the new life that awaits you. If this video found you when you needed it most, as I believe happened, keep watching. The next video is just as important. It awaits you as yet another step on the path. You've already started. Don't stop now.